sheep's clothing is more than a warning. Blah, blah, black sheep, have you any soul? No, sir, by the way, what the hell are mortal? Beware, be skeptical. But the smiles are plated gold. Deceit so natural. But a wolf in sheep's clothing is more than a warning. Blah, blah, black sheep, have you any soul? No, sir, by the way, what the hell are mortal? Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Blah, blah, black sheep, have you any soul? Tell me how you're sleeping easy, how you're only thinking of yourself. Show me how you justify telling all your lies like second nature. Listen, mark my words, one day you will pay. Karma's gonna come collect your debt.
It's all on you.
So you're not gonna like re-ask the question?
Yes, I'm going to re-ask the question. I just want to make sure I got the mute button off. So, welcome back. This is our next podcast. I don't even know the number. Maybe podcast number 5.
We could just call this one number 2.
We could, but we're not going to.
Okay.
Anyway.
7. So the last time you ended with the question for me.
How did it impact you? I know you had questions. I remember you talking about things that you had questions about, and we shared the word with you. We shared it back and forth with each other, and some things were substantiated that you already believed, but you were taught differently.
Yeah.
And how did that impact you? Because here's the reason I'm asking that is there's we just had a class and we taught some things that are contrary to normal Christian beliefs, but are documented specifically in God's Word. So how did that have an impact on you?
So, I was raised up in the faith, in the Trinitarian faith. I was a very curious kid, not a smart kid by any means. I was never an A student, usually a B student, and then didn't always get that award. I don't know if they give those out these days, but I was always asking questions. I remember always asking my mother questions and always wanting answers, and she, would do her best to answer them. But everything my mother answered, I believed it. Everything my mom said was the truth for me. And I don't know why this keeps popping in my head right now, but I live in this small town, Knob Noster, Missouri, and nearby there was a smaller town, if you want to call it a town, called Montserrat. It was French, Montserrat. I think that's how you spell it. So Montserrat, all one word. But we were passing it, and my sister says, "Mom, why do they call that town Monster Rat?" And my mom starts laughing. And I don't remember her laughing. I just remember my sister's question. And my mom says, "It's not Monster Rat, it's Montserrat." But I'm stuck on, why would they call this town Monster Rat? And we go like 2 miles down the road, and it's completely quiet. And I just yelled out, "Yeah, how come?" Like, I had questions all the time. But I wasn't always listening.
Is that because you were homeschooled?
No, I wasn't homeschooled yet, Aaron. Why are you bald? Anyways.
Old age, man.
I know. So,
why are you gray?
Damn, what was I saying? No, I always had questions. And my mom always had the answers, and I just took those answers. And so my mom was the one that brought us to church. Me and my brother and my sister. She brought us to church. It's not awful that my mother brought me to church, Kelly.
We have a peanut gallery back here, folks, and that would be my wife, Kelly, who said it was awful that Mitch's mom took him to church. Oh, that's not what you were talking about? It was something else that you rudely interrupted us? Okay, I'm just checking. See, we're live, folks, and we're not editing shit for you. So, go ahead.
So, My mother, at one time, she was my Sunday school teacher for a couple years.
Wasn't she your everything teacher?
All right, shut up again. So, she was my Sunday school teacher along with some other kids for a while. So I pretty much learned everything through her. And yes, I started getting homeschooled when I was in the 8th grade. Test scores started going down in my area, and there were just, I don't know, there were some things my mother didn't enjoy, which it's so weird because like looking back, they were teaching me evolution. That was the worst. Now we look at what they're being taught. It's not just evolution. Like that's the least of our problems. They're being taught, boys can't be girls, girls can't be boys.
Right.
Sorry, y'all. We don't believe that shit.
We don't believe that.
So,
they're teaching guys can get pregnant.
Yeah, they're being indoctrinated into this bullshit ideology. And anyways, I'm not going to get into the politics of all that bullshit, but
We should talk about that sometime, though.
we definitely will need to touch on it. But anyway, so that going to church, yeah, my mom being my Sunday school teacher, everything she said was truth. I was never close with my stepdads. My mom got remarried twice after my biological father. My biological father, my mother left him when I think I was 4, so I never really knew him.
Is this the one that was in the military?
He was Navy.
Navy.
Yeah, he was Navy. I think that he worked in like, and I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't know Navy. Like I don't know ships, but I think he worked in like the boiler rooms. And I could be completely wrong, and he might even watch this at some point because like we're kind of retouching, but like I haven't heard from him for a while. So he was in the Navy. My mother left him. According to his story, my mother left him while he was on the ship. According to my mom's story, that's not how it happened. I don't know. But this set me up for like bad parenting from the very beginning. Not that my mom was a bad parent, but a bad parental house, right? I didn't have a balance in the home. So my mom remarries when I think I was around 6 or 7. So I was in the 1st grade, and this guy was in the Air Force that she married. We moved down from Missouri down to Texas, where we lived. We had a farm. It was a chicken farm. Not a whole lot of chickens. We had some horses, but they weren't ours. They were just on the land that we were renting.
Right.
And then they bought a modular home and took over management of that mobile home park because our farm was just down the road from there, and then they bought a modular home, they put it there, and then they managed that whole park area.
Right.
And then, and I'm fast tracking everything, then they split up when I was in 3rd grade going into 4th grade, so now I'm, I guess, around the age 9 years old. We moved back to Missouri. And then eventually we go back to church in Missouri. And church was always difficult in Texas. When we lived in Texas, my stepdad never went. I don't remember one time him ever going. My mom hardly ever went. But when we did go, I don't remember much about it.
No, your stepdad, he was the one he was hard, right? He was hard.
He was
on
abusive.
You. Yeah.
So that stepfather, he was abusive. I remember one time there was one morning my mom had to. So he got a DUI, or whatever you called it back then, DWI, where he couldn't drive, but he worked on base. So she had to take him to work.
Right.
In order to do that, she had to drop all of us off at the bus stop because we couldn't be left alone at home and then walk up to the bus stop. And I remember it being a long walk to get to the bus stop because we had to, like I said, our house is way back in the country, and we had to walk up to where the mobile home park was.
Right.
And looking back, to me, it was a mile, but I was a kid. So a mile is a long way for, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, but it might not have been that long. I don't know, but
right.
I only know it from being 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. So it was a long walk to get up to the bus stop. So my mom would just drop us off at the bus stop, and she'd go and she'd take my stepdad to work, and then she'd come back, and we would have already been gone on the bus headed to school. But that meant that she had to wake us up earlier so she could drop us off and get him to work. So we'd be at the bus stop earlier
Right.
than everybody else. We'd be there and like the sun's not even coming up yet. It's pitch black dark out. Whereas before, when we were allowed to walk up there on our own, and I never thought about these things, but when we used to walk up there on our own, the sun was starting to come up and stuff. You know, we were headed out, but because she needed to get somewhere else.
Right.
But I never thought about this stuff when I was a kid. Anyways, there was one morning we were all running late. Everybody was frantic, and I came out staggering. You know, the whole little kid, like wiping my eyes, coming out of my bedroom. My bedroom was right next to his bedroom, and he came out and he picked me up by the back of my neck. And he was a big guy. He was like 6'2", maybe he might have been taller than that, but I know he was over 6 foot. Big, tall guy, not real muscular, but like he had some weight to him, and picked me up by the back of my neck and just launched me, just threw me. God. And we only had a few steps. At the end of that hallway, there was maybe 3 steps, which would go into the living room to the right and the kitchen to the left. And he came up and I remember he had his black military boots on. He was Air Force, but at the time they were wearing, and I don't know what it's called, BDUs, I think is what they called it back then. So it was black laced up boots that you had to polish every day, and jungle camo. And he kicked me, and I just remember being there at the end of those steps. I remember like one hand was on the next step down, and then this arm was pointing in the air. I remember looking up and just bam, just got kicked right in the face, and flipped down the remaining stairs, which there's not a whole lot of them. It's not like I toppled over everywhere, but I fell down and hit the wall right at the end. So you come down 2 or 3 steps, and then there's a wall there, catching to the one side, the other side. So I hit that wall, and I just remember staring at him, and he had no remorse, no care, nothing. And that was just the kind of guy he was. And my mom was in a bowling league, and he would make me. I felt like I remember specifically. There might be a couple nights when I deserved to get in trouble, but I remember one night specifically being asleep in the bedroom, and he came in and he woke me up and brought me out into the living room and had me stand in a corner while he watched TV, just so he could throw beer cans and cigarettes at me.
That's crazy, man.
That was the kind of guy he was.
I don't even know how you would. I mean, I know my dad was abusive too, and I don't even know how you would put up with it. I mean,
what was I going to do?
Yeah, I mean.
And I didn't know anything different because my dad wasn't around.
Right.
And I remember one time him picking me up by the neck and holding me up to the ceiling fan and just letting it hit me in the forehead like this. And my mom walked in seeing it. My mom walked in seeing it, and he's just holding me, just arm up, my forehead out the ceiling fan, just hit me over and over and over and over. Like Chinese water torture type thing.
What a douchebag. I mean.
And she grabbed a butcher knife and she came after him, and he dropped me from right up there. Boom. Went right out the back door.
That's crazy.
But that wasn't the first time he even did that to me. He had done that to me before.
So this leads up to how, I mean, this all defines you. This all shapes you.
This defines me because that was the beginning of knowing what type of father I was going to be and what I wanted to be.
Right. So you learned a lot of what you didn't want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, people, I think that I was blessed in knowing that, like, understanding that is not the way that a father is supposed to raise a child.
Right.
And whereas, like, most people, they grow up just not even thinking that way. They are what their parents were.
Right.
You know? And so they got divorced, and my mom remarried another gentleman when we moved to Missouri, who turned out to be, he wasn't the greatest. He was not nearly as abusive as that one. I mean, the worst he ever did, like, he beat my mom in front of me, and I only saw it happen one time that I can remember, and I swung at him a couple times, and he jerked my arm up, and I was a small guy. I think I was 13 at the time, and he jerked my arm. I think he just grabbed me to throw me, whatever, because I was hitting him in the head. And he grabbed me to throw me, and it fucked up my shoulder. And but yeah, there was a couple times he and I got into some fist fights, but it was usually because he was either. I mean, I was kind of a rebellious kid. But
Who wasn't though?
There
I mean, that could be an excuse. I mean, what kid isn't?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
our kids
the
are.
one time he was cheating on my mom, so I knocked him out. And then the other time, and when I say knocked him out, like, I'm pretty sure I knocked him out. He came in home late. I knew that he was cheating on my mom. My mom knew it. Everybody in the house knew it. And he came in late. And I had been waiting for him. Like, I was just boiling with anger. I think I was 15, 16 at the time. And I took off, and my shoes were already off. And so he came into the house. I picked one of them up. I was, like, laying on my couch watching TV. It was, like, 11:30 at night. And usually he's home by 10.
Right.
And I picked up my shoe and just threw it at him. I said, "Where the fuck were you?" And very religious family. He was religious. You don't cuss.
Right.
And so he said, "You better watch your mouth." You know, and he said it more stern than that. And he bent over to pick up the shoe. And from that moment, I don't remember how I got off the couch. I just remember being over the top of his body, and he's laid out on the floor. I don't remember
That's
what
crazy.
happened, but I remember my hands being sore the next morning.
Were you
And-
drinking?
No. I was 15, 16 years old at the
Oh,
time.
wow.
I did not drink yet. I was all about church and about killing my stepdad. That's all I was
Wow.
about. I took boxing lessons, wrestling. All I wanted to do
Was take him out?
was kill him. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Thankfully, he never hit me back because when you're talking about size, I wrestled at 103 when I was 15 years old. And he must have been around 200 pounds.
right.
So when you're talking about size, thankfully, he never hit me back. Never
Right.
hit me because he probably would have killed me.
Yeah.
I was not very big.
So this is going to how this affected you when you heard different doctrine. I mean, this all shaped you for questioning everything. That's kind of where we're going back to.
I guess I kind of got off that path a little bit. So, yeah.
Because I mean, the reality is for your entire life. I mean, how old are you now?
Yeah, around that time, I was
So-
15, 16 years old, but
But for 30 plus years,
Oh,
you're
I'm-
taught
yeah,
one
37
doctrine.
years. I'm 37 years old.
Right, but
Yeah.
we've known each other at least 6 or
Yeah,
7,
so
right?
I'm talking about 32. I was taught one doctrine.
Yeah, you're taught one doctrine, and then that kind of changes,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, you asked me that question about the questions that I had towards religion, towards Christianity. I had so many questions, and honestly, I wish I remembered those questions. I wish I had them written down. I do know a couple of them. I do remember a couple of them. One of them was faith, and it still irritates me. It still bothers me. You know, just saying like you just have to take it on faith. But I never knew, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Right.
To take something on faith. Like, you just have to believe
but
it.
I don't think that's biblical. I think we've talked about this.
Well-
I don't think that in itself is biblical.
In a way, it might be. I don't know, but to say like you just have to believe it just because it's been recorded, it's been written down, so you just have to believe it.
Does that come from the scripture that says we walk by faith, not by sight? Because I think that affects people in a way that, you know, just take it by blind faith. I don't think God wants
Yeah.
us to take it by blind
I
faith.
don't either. I honestly don't. And I do believe that it's like that scripture. You and I argued about this a little, or debated about this, I guess, a couple of weeks ago about faith being, and I believe a very good definition of faith according to the Bible, or a verse from the Bible. What does it say? The faith is the evidence
Hebrews
of things,
11:1, right?
evidence of things unseen.
Right.
Faith is the evidence of things unseen, the things not told, sorry, evidence of things unseen.
I'm going there so you don't keep hacking it up.
Yeah, because I'm going to. That's what I do.
Hebrews 11, what was it? 1? Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's King James. I hate King James. I think that, let me see if there's a better one. Now faith is the assurance of things we hope for, the proof of the reality of the things we cannot see.
Right. So to me, it's the evidence of things that have not been seen or cannot be seen. So like miracles, like you can't see the wind.
Right.
but you can see the effects of the wind when you see the branches move. Right.
Right,
To
right.
me, that's evidence that there is wind.
Sure.
So
Sure,
that's
sure.
what faith is like to me, is that, or that's what faith is to me, is believing that there is a God because you can see the effects of
Right.
our God.
Right.
Right. So seeing the wind move the tree branches, you know there's wind because you
Yeah.
can see the effects. So that's like pretty much putting God and wind in the same.
Yeah, and we talked. I taught on it the other day more on the word pistis, and it has several different meanings
Pistis,
according to
being the Greek
Textus.
word.
Yeah, pistis. But you got to look at it in the context. But in your context, is exactly what I agree with you in that context. That is what it means, because you look at Jesus saying, "Have faith in God." Well, we can't see God, right? We are to trust in Him.
Yes, but we can see the evidence of
Right.
God.
We can see the evidence.
Just like you can't see wind. We
Right.
can see the evidence of wind.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's just one thing that you have questions on. I'm kind of targeting you and being specific on.
Yeah, the Trinity was one thing that like destroyed my mind. I remember that question from
So
a
how are
long
you
time.
taught that? I mean, how do
man.
they teach the Trinity? Because
So
I know it's brought. I've gone to church with you, and
Yeah.
they bring it up in almost every sermon. And I don't believe in the Trinity, and I'm a heretic because of it.
right, yeah, you're a terrible person.
I'm a terrible person, but I'm labeled a heretic because
Yeah,
I don't believe in
like
the
you.
Trinity. I get that.
Um,
My wife doesn't either, but we still have meetings.
She's a Bathsheba.
You would not want to know what that means, folks.
Anyway. So yeah, so like I told you about, my mom was the what did I just say there? That was a lot of syllables.
Your mom was the Sunday school teacher, right? And your
Yeah, she was
everything teacher.
Yes, she was the Sunday
She
school
taught
teacher.
you everything.
Not
that you
everything,
know?
but she was the Sunday school teacher for a long time. And I remember her. God, I remember one time, and there was several students in this class where she
I think
was
we've
teaching
had a
us
lot to drink.
about the Trinity, but she used the apple. She used an apple, right? I love my mom.
An apple.
I love my mom. Okay, like I don't want this to come off like I'm against my mother.
Right.
But this is my upbringing. This is what I believed in. This is what she believed in.
Because she's probably going to watch this at some point.
She might, but that's okay. So she used the apple.
We know that your girlfriend's mom should never watch this.
Well, she's borderline Christian / Jewish, so we don't even know where she's at.
Holy crap. We are not going to edit that. I'm so sorry, folks.
I don't know what I'm saying. What's
We will not edit this because
Listen,
otherwise it's
listen,
just
folks,
not raw.
I'm a normal person, okay? I get things wrong. Sometimes I get them right, and I'm surprised when I get them right, and you should be surprised too, okay?
I love this show.
The Black Sheep Christians Network, folks.
So,
Welcome.
going back, my mother's class, she took an apple, and she said, to everybody, is this an apple? We all said yes. And she said, okay, if I took the peel off, is it still an apple? We said, well, yeah. Okay, if I took the core out, is it still an apple? So you have the core, the fruit, and the peel. Yeah, it's still an apple. It's just now you have the apple core separated from the apple fruit, separated from the apple peel. But it's all an apple. That's
This is
the
how she taught you the Trinity.
That's the Trinity, Aaron. Why can't you believe that, you stubborn? So,
I mean, there's logic in that, right?
so
Because you got three separate entities being one thing.
there's another
I mean,
teaching. There's
okay.
another teaching. One more. No, I wasn't cutting you off, but there's another teaching.
Okay,
So,
take a drink because
you take a drink.
I'm good.
So, the water makes up three different substances, right? You have the liquid form, then you got steam as the gas.
Oh no, they did not.
And then you get the ice, which is the hard form. These are three different things, right? Now, I've been learning recently that Trinity is being explained similar to this. You have the mind, body, and spirit. mind being the steam, the body being the ice, and the spirit being the liquid form, right? So
What if the body wants to be liquid?
Maybe the mind is liquid. I don't know. The body is the ice, and then the spirit is the steam.
I mean, the body should be solid, so it should be the ice.
I'm just telling you.
But it is made up of water.
It's a
so
stretch.
Maybe it's the.
It's a stretch. However, the apple is not explained in the Bible. Is not used in the Bible to explain
There's
the Trinity.
nothing in the Bible that explains
Water
the Trinity.
is not used in the Bible to explain the Trinity, but they use these teachings today. I can do that with anything. I
Sure.
can convince you that murdering your neighbor is okay.
Based on the Trinity?
No, I can convince you that murdering your neighbor is okay based on anything in life. What I'm saying is that they're not using a Bible verse to explain the Trinity.
Right.
And I could explain to you that murder is okay by using.
Well, that's the
any
rationalization of
other-
that. There's a TV show out there called Beef. That's kind of the rationalization of that whole thing.
I could probably find a way to take boiling pasta, and say like, this is why it's okay to kill your neighbor's kids, right? Like you could do that with anything.
That's
There's no
harsh right
Bible
there,
verse.
bud.
I'm just saying.
That's harsh.
It's possible. You can take anything and stretch it to mean.
Oh
whatever
yeah, you
want.
can. You absolutely can. And the
sometimes
Bible's
it
the
works
most
out.
twisted and distorted thing ever.
Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it's a great story and it sounds good. But you know what? Nothing you explain to me about the ice and the water and the steam or the apple comes from the Bible. So that was another question that I had growing up.
Right. So I remember you came to one of our Bible studies, and I
Came
was.
to it? No, I didn't come to it.
Were
You
you
set it up.
forced?
No, I was doing.
They
I was doing guitar lessons for Emma on Mondays, and you had your Bible studies with you and Carlos on Mondays, and for some reason, the lessons ended at the exact same time that your Bible studies started.
That had nothing to do with you, so don't read into that bullshit. Because I don't even know
Well,
how
that was Kelly, but somebody had a design there.
It may have been. But you still came.
You invited me a couple times, and I was like, "No, I gotta go." This
And
sounds great.
maybe that's why
I don't
I-
even know what the Bible is, so I'll be right back.
And that might be why I was like, yeah, I don't know about that guy. I don't know.
You didn't like my tattoo either.
No, I didn't like your tattoo.
Yeah.
I mean, I get your tattoo because that's what you were taught.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were taught things too that are wrong. So,
Yeah.
I mean, can you take that? Show your tattoo. So his tattoo is a guitar or a music symbol and a cross.
It's a treble clef with a cross in the center, and then it's got a musical staff going through there with notes on it.
So, we were taught things in our church that I don't necessarily agree with.
I like things. When I played guitar, I saw it.
Well, you like the cross. Well, you put the cross in there, but
to me it was because I played guitar at a worship band at a pretty
right,
large church, and to me it was Christ was at the center
right
of the music for me.
And I'll tell you, it wasn't that I didn't like the tattoo because it's a good tattoo.
Yeah.
It's that I was taught that a cross represents death and and the dove represents life.
Right.
But big fucking deal.
Right. I don't worship the cross.
Right.
To me, it was a meaning.
It's about if you have I think to this day. So I left that church because I didn't agree with half the shit that they taught. I think that cross is about if you understand what that cross represents.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if you don't, if you're just wearing that cross because everybody else wears a cross.
It is kind of weird. Like, how many people died on the cross? And one person dies on it, and they're all like, oh, the cross is great.
That's why I got a tattoo of a dove.
And how many of those people that died on the cross were bad people? That's like if you imprison one good person, but
No,
we
I
take
get it.
all jail cells.
Well,
and
there's
start
only
wearing them
one
around our
person
neck.
that died on that cross that was good. Only one.
Well,
And that was Christ.
we don't know that for sure.
No, we know that there was only one good
Oh, you're saying
person.
perfect.
Perfect.
Only one
Christ.
perfect person.
Christ. Innocent, like from what they're charged with.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Right.
'Cause that always
we have
happens.
innocent people in prison today.
Right.
Yeah. Could you imagine walking around with like a jail cell around your neck, just weighing you down? Just,
I can't imagine.
like maybe that would be more symbolic.
Have you been to jail? Have you ever gone to jail?
Yeah. Not prison, jail though.
Yeah, I've gone to jail. It sucks.
Yeah. I was a prostitute for a while. I'm just kidding.
I remember being in jail, and I was in there with some friends, and we were laying on the floor, and the cops came up and kicked us.
They kicked you?
They kicked us and told us to sit up because we were.
Like nudge you with their foot, or actually?
No, like kick us.
Wow.
They kicked us. Yeah. It was bad.
Dang. No, I
That was another day and time, and I don't live that way anymore, thankfully.
only one time was I behind the cells. 3 times I was arrested and taken to the jail.
See, I was never. So I always talked my way out of. See, I was going to the Navy.
Yeah.
And when I was in jail, I was going to the Navy, even though I wasn't going to the Navy because I had already had kidney failure.
Right.
So I had basically lied my way through a bunch of bullshit.
Did you know it then, though?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My wife is snapping her fingers because it's getting to be too much.
No, Jess is snapping her fingers towards Kelly.
His wife.
I don't know what's going on. But anyway, we got off track, and so there's a lot of reasons that we don't believe the Trinity. We're Unitarian in belief, and that's going to change a lot of what you think, but I want to challenge everybody to hear us out one time.
That's for a future discussion, definitely. That's a future podcast.
It's a future podcast that we need to explain to you so that you don't just like shut us out. Because
on why
we're heretics according to the Christianity, and I don't mind being a heretic for Christ because we're about the truth and giving you logic over the stupidity of the world.
I kind of mind it, man. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of mind somebody just coming out and just saying you're a heretic because we believe different. I mind because why not give us the chance just to talk to you about it?
No, I get that.
And then after that, then call me a heretic and say you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, give me a reason why I'm a heretic, not because all the councils, Council of Nicaea, Council of Trent, Council of Alexandria, they all said I am.
Yeah.
And they're still saying I am. I'm tired of people telling me who I am instead of listening to the word.
Pronouns suck, bro. Either it's heretic or hisatic. I don't care.
Oh my God, you went there, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Where'd that
Is it a
bottle-
heretic? Just run really quick. Wait. I'll put the camera on. Hold on, folks. Mitch is running away from the go. It's on me.
I can't.
He's
go
going to
my
get the
phone.
bottle so we can keep going. So,
Do you need ice?
no, I'm good. But just bring the bottle. Look, this is not the normal program that you would be listening to for Christians. We don't believe in the legalism, the politics, and the just nonsense that mainstream Christianity is teaching out there. And we will explain why. We will go through stuff. You know, we have other websites where there's solid teachings on there that explains exactly why we believe what we believe. And at some point we'll put it up there for you. But in the meantime, here we are. We are the Black Sheep Christians Network for a reason. The Black Sheep Christians, and none of this is scripted, so give us a freaking break, okay?
Or don't give us a break.
Or don't give us a break.
It's not gonna hurt my feelings.
But, we want to hear from you. So you can reach out to the Black Sheep Christians at gmail.com, and, you can chew us out. You can tell us how screwed up we are. You can tell us whatever you want. But we do want to hear from you. So please subscribe. And Mitch still hasn't answered the questions that I asked him fully, but
I answered.
you tried. But we're going to finish here in a minute.
There's still one more question I remember.
There's another question. And, I remember getting into an argument with Mitch about this question that I brought up on being a sinner. And you flat out disagreed with me at the time, like you always do.
Well, you'll have to refresh my memory.
On which one? This is about being a sinner.
This
Is still being a sinner after you're saved, after you're born again. And I remember we had this argument, we had this challenge back and forth, as we typically do when it comes to this
We should
stuff.
probably talk about like how I changed my mind.
You did change your mind.
No, on the Trinity
Oh, yeah.
with Mark.
Okay.
You don't know that part, man.
I don't know that part.
Yeah, okay. All right. So it was one of those days that I got done teaching Emma a lesson, and we were doing these little Bible studies that were set up at the same time.
Which I knew nothing about. Apparently my wife set them up.
Yeah. So it was me, you, Carlos,
Sorry about that.
and Kelly. Kelly being Aaron's wife, Carlos, a mutual friend of ours. And we sat
Good
on the
grief.
table and we were just talking about, I don't know, we were talking about bullshit. I don't know.
It was.
But
I-
we were talking about something and Carlos just looks up.
No, we were walking out the door. This is in
No.
another house. We
He
were no.
was sitting at the table.
He was playing his.
I don't think he was sitting.
He said,
She wasn't sitting there. It was me, you, and Carlos sitting at the table.
I'm writing a song, and I want to get your.
Okay. Yes, it was about the song, and then but I'm thinking about as we were walking out
Was
the door.
that the moment? I don't think that was the moment. That was not the exact moment.
This is what happens when you
Anyways.
invite your wives
All right,
to
something
sit
happened.
around the podcast.
Yeah, they correct us.
No, Jess is not a wife.
This is what happens. They correct us,
She's a
and we don't
girlfriend.
like it. So we're sitting at the table, and Carlos
Great.
says, he just looks up and he goes,
Jesus is not God.
"No, yeah." It said, "You know, the Trinity is not real, right?" And I was like, "What?" But what he didn't know is, it must have been the week before that. That was when I was playing 4 sermons a weekend,
Right.
Saturday night, and then 3
Everything
times
you
on Sunday.
sang, I remember, had the Trinity in it.
Most songs.
Yeah. As they do.
80% probably. So Saturday evening and then 3 times on Sunday, we had a sermon that we had to play for, we had to perform for. And Mark, we would go out Saturday afterwards, we'd go.
He played piano, right?
He played keyboard, yeah. And we usually got there around 4:30 to practice. The sermon started, I think, at like 6:30, 7, something like that. So nobody ate. So afterwards, once it was over, then we'd go to the restaurant and go get something to eat.
You're all right.
The
You're
lighting's not perfect.
No, it's like so bright. She turns the light on. I'm like,
The background
wow.
is so beautiful, and you're
Kelly.
fucking it up with the lights, Kelly. So
This is what you guys get. I'm just telling you. This is
real.
This is
honest.
who
This
we
is not
are.
real.
That's
So-
who we are. We make fun of each other nonstop. And it's always about Kelly and Mitchell. Kelly, Mitchell. It's about one of those two. So here we go.
Alright. So after Saturday nights, after the sermon's over, everything's done, we pack up our gear, we leave, we all meet up at the same restaurant. It's always the same restaurant every weekend.
Did you
Nothing
get
wrong with the restaurant.
bored of that one?
It was great. But we'd hang out. The worship team would hang out and we'd get something to eat together. And I remember sitting there and with Mark said that he did not believe that Jesus was God. And I remember the first thought was like, how dare you? Right? I was
Now,
like,
who all was there? Was everybody there?
it was me, Mark, and Brian. I think it was just 3 of us.
And he's the main
Brian,
leader?
Brian was the worship leader at the time. And yeah, Mark was the keyboard player. And
So it's just the 3 of you.
I believe so. There might have been.
It's a good thing that Brian
others.
was blind because he couldn't hear you then.
I don't want to speak bad of the guy. I still think great about the dude. I just think that he was blind in more ways than physical. And man, like it hurts to say that too, because I really think that he's got a great heart for people.
Sure.
Mark said that to me though, and I just remember thinking like, "How dare you?" But like not in like towards him, but towards like I don't even know towards what. But it wasn't like animosity towards him. It was just like, how could you say that?
Right.
You know, like in the way that like a patriot for your country, like don't ever say like fuck
Right.
the USA. It's
Oh,
not
yeah, yeah,
personal,
yeah.
But don't say it.
So he's
you know
the
what I
one that kind of set this.
mean? He set
for
it up.
you.
And I started to argue with him.
But did you have these thoughts beforehand? Did you ever question it before Mark said that?
Yeah, because of the whole apple and the water.
That
thing
doesn't
was
make
around
any
it.
sense.
It didn't make sense. Yes,
Because
but I
you're
just-
logical, and that
right,
does
but I
not
just
make. There's
accepted
no
it
logic.
because of faith, right? Which
Right.
we talked about. I accepted it because of faith.
Right.
So that's why, like, it didn't make sense to me, but I still accepted it because I was told to.
Right.
So when Mark said that, I just remember thinking like how dare you, and arguing with him. I was like, of course they're the same thing. Like, the Bible talks about it, and immediately I had no other argument. I just went and stopped, and I just
Right.
shut up. And I remember Mark just did this. He just goes,
So, but what was Mark's reasoning behind? I mean, what was his
he just said,
logic behind
said
why
that
he
he'd
said
been
it?
listening to another preacher. I don't remember who that guy was, but from the moment that he started listening to this guy, he started to question things, and the Trinity being one of them.
So this,
That's all
so
I
this,
remember.
you don't even know who this guy is, but he's
No.
teaching that the Trinity is a facade, and Mark grabs onto this, and he just, I know Mark, and he didn't really even grasp the fullness of why before he even tells you, which is kind of
Right,
cool because
he didn't know how to say it. Because I remember talking to Mark about this. Is there a camera looking straight down?
there's not a camera
There should
looking
be.
down at my
Kelly's
wife who's
crawling
walking
around
by.
right now. She's got her ass
What
head
the
up in the air.
fuck?
And we just need a camera right there.
Jeez, how are those knees doing?
She did it.
She did it. Sorry, folks. My wife just kind of crawled by the cameras. It's a good thing we have a private studio. Oh, man. Anyway, back to Mark. I'm thankful that Mark shared that with you because...
Yeah, so that was right before Carlos said, they're not real. I
Right,
had already been doing the research
right.
and I couldn't line it up. So when Carlos said that to me, he said, they're not real, right? And I just stopped and stared. And you were like this.
I was, because I was like...
You were like, it's not
Holy
the time,
shit,
man.
he
It's
just
the
did
time,
that.
man.
I was like, he just fucking did that. I was like, Carlos, it's not the first thing that you want to spring on somebody that what they've believed their whole life about Jesus and about God is a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, just fucking walk by already.
It is hard. It is difficult. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be quiet. You walk by.
Hold on, we're going to pause. We're not pausing.
Pause. Oh my God. That's funny. So, how did that affect you, though? How did it affect you?
When he said that?
No, I mean, even reconciling. How are you reconciling that even today that Jesus is not God?
How long did that take me? Do you guys even remember? Like, I posted on Facebook.
A
but
long
I
time.
researched for I researched for a long time. I made a list of like pros and cons, like not pros and cons, but I made a list of like why there is a Trinity and why there is not a Trinity. Like every verse. I mean, I searched through everything that had to talk about Jesus and every line that had to talk about God. Only New Testament though,
Right.
and only Holy Spirit, right? And there are so many damn words for Spirit in the New Testament.
Right.
Like I'm looking at everything. This took weeks.
Right.
It was like 6 to 8 months.
Oh, it was a long time. I remember
Oh, yeah,
we
it-
fought with,
you're
we,
right,
we
it did
argued
take
about
months.
it.
Because it was
You're right. It did take months.
Yeah, it
did
wasn't
take
easy.
months.
And that's why I didn't want to tell you right
You're
away.
right. I think the post even said that I had been researching for like 8 or 9 months,
yeah, it was one.
and I had some extra time at that time. I think because I think that Beth split or was splitting. Regardless, we were not.
Were, but-
Yeah, there was like no relationship, so
Right.
like, I had time.
That's what you were focused
Yeah.
on. I remember
I
that.
had time. It wasn't like these
I remember
days.
you teaching your kids this.
Well, yeah, because I was.
I mean, you were teaching everybody. This is pretty much why you left
Yeah.
the church.
I was teaching lots.
Well,
of
you were
people.
asked to leave.
I was trying
Or-
to teach lots of people, and people were not receptive to it. I just wanted
Right.
to show, like, look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I was
Right.
never about taking my word for it,
Sure.
because if you had came to me and said that, or if Carlos had came to me and said, take my word for it, I would have said, fuck
Screw you, yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
I'll say,
I mean-
fuck you. I'm not against
Saying fuck you?
Yeah. I don't care if this is a podcast.
I mean,
don't
it's a
care if
podcast,
somebody's
but
offended. I
you should
don't-
care it's a podcast, but I don't care if you fucking swear.
Yeah. So I didn't do that I didn't do it because of Carlos. I didn't do it because of Mark.
You know, I got to stop you.
Yeah.
We got to
You
do
probably
this.
should.
We got to do a podcast about cuss words and swearing because, you know, there's people out there that teach
We'll just
that.
mention it right now. We don't need a whole podcast.
No, we need a whole fucking podcast
Okay.
because we got to show everybody that, you know what? They're just stupid words. And my wife, she swears like nobody else I've ever met, but then denies.
Ooh, stop it.
I'm sorry. My son just said that's true.
It's not true.
So it must be true. Anyway, back to what we were saying. How did it took you 6 to 8 months to reconcile that, but
Yeah, I mean, and not to reconcile, I couldn't take your word for it. I couldn't take
No.
Carlos' word. Like, we did argue.
we don't want you to take our word for it. That's
Yeah.
the great thing is I don't
had
want
to
you
look
to
for
take my word for anything that I've ever taught you
Yeah.
or anyone else.
And I posted on Facebook. For some freaking reason, I was like all about Facebook back then.
I remember the arguments you used to get in on Facebook.
Yeah, I remember I got an argument with a buddy of mine, Carson, who is a preacher today that we grew up. We didn't grow up together. We were in the same church youth group.
Right.
When we were younger, we played in the same youth worship band. He was my drummer. I was his guitarist, lead singer. And he was fantastic musician. One of the best drummers I've ever
Right.
played with. I mean, just fantastic. And great heart for God. And we took a lot of the same classes back then. And he argued with me. And
I mean, because they're not looking it up.
Yeah.
If you
I've
don't
argued
go
with
look
my
it up for
uncle.
yourself.
Yeah. I've argued with my mother. I've argued with my uncle. And every single time I had to realize I'm not good. Okay, first of all, I'm not good with my words.
I get that.
I'm not good with my words. I don't have
We all agree.
I don't have a great understanding of the English language. Right? I'm not a literate. What is it called? A English major, a literacy
Right.
major.
Literacy.
Like I'm not good with these kind of things.
Literature.
Literature. But I'm even worse. When I drink. Right? So my uncle though and my mother as well, and Carson, they're so smart. Like all of these people have gone to college, have degrees, masters, everything. Like they are very smart individuals.
Right.
I've never been that person.
Right.
I've always had a mental block when it comes to, and I was tested on this when I was in 5th grade. I have a mental block, but it doesn't mean I don't know what you're saying. I just can't recall the word that I want to use.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain. So basically, the easiest way to explain it is I'm stupid. So
It could be because you were homeschooled?
no,
Because that puts the blame on your mom. That's an easy way out right there.
I was at homeschool until I was in 8th grade.
Oh,
I
well,
got tested
shit.
when I was in 5th grade.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You have no excuse now.
Right. That was just one thing that I struggled in, and I'm not a dumb person, but
No.
I don't know how to pull up the words that I want to use correctly, and it's honestly that is something that I struggle with still to this day. It kills my confidence.
I remember, yeah. I mean, I remember we argue about a lot. If you think about it, we argue about a lot, and it's
lot
always
of
about
shit.
the word.
A lot of shit.
But the greatness of that is we keep each other in check, I think, and we sharpen each other.
Yeah.
I remember talking about so much of this. We get off subject pretty easily, but thank you, Peanut Gallery.
Kelly, do you need more wine? And are you? You're good. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Do you want some of this Wooten Young?
No.
It's super good, super smooth.
What the hell?
They're not our sponsor, though. I'm not supposed to show you this
I can't believe
because
you
they're
stole
not
this
our
thing.
sponsor. but I'm going to have a tiny bit more. And my wife's like, what the fuck?
I've never heard him slur this bad before.
I'm only having a little bit. Anyway,
You're totally good, dude. You're good. You're at home.
I'm at home. You're the one that has to drive.
That's right.
So we do argue, but it's for the sake of we both want the truth. And you know, some of the things in God's word regarding the Trinity, first of all, you can't find the Trinity in God's word. That's the dispute, right? You can't find it in God's word, but there's no logic there. I don't care that the word Trinity is not in there. I care that the logic is not in there. And the goofballs over there are losing their minds. At least one of them.
Don't let them distract you. They're talking about something completely different.
Yes, I know, but they're like... Anyway,
yeah, it's that thing of like, the Trinity isn't in the Bible, and they're like, well, it's not going to be because it hasn't been invented yet.
that's the
Like,
thing you're talking about. This
up.
is take it by faith. That is an issue.
Yeah.
Because there's not one... You know, I did a study on the Trinity over the years.
I just want to say this before you go into that. But like the Trinity isn't in the Bible. But like, how many words do we see by looking at the Hebrew language? I'm not like real versed in like the Latin and Aramaic, but if you go to the Hebrew and the Greek languages, like how many words? I know the Hebrew language for fire. There's like 50 different ways to say fire.
Sure.
Depending on how they're using it.
Same with the word one.
But we only have like 4 or 5 ways to say fire, right? But the Greeks still, they also have like their different ways of like saying a certain word depending on how they write it out. And why would there not be a word for Trinity?
Correct.
Does that
there,
make sense?
There would be, or there would be. I mean, that's too logical. Come on, stop it.
But
we got about
doesn't make sense. Is there an argument?
We've got about 5 minutes to cover this before we close. We got about 5 minutes.
Why,
Can
did
you
you
handle
pee?
this? Do I have to pee? Jesus Christ. So anyway, we never even covered the sin factor that we got to cover some point.
About like, why are we still a sinner?
Why are we still a sinner? But we don't have time for that now. We'll cover that at another time.
We could. I mean, we could brush up on it right now and then see what people say.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry. Continue with what you were saying. I cut you off anyway.
We will
so
get back
stupid.
to you, please. We will get back to you on any of this. If you have questions, please reach out to us. blacksheepchristians@gmail.com. theblacksheepchristians@gmail.com. And we'd love to help you out, you know, because there's a lot of questions, you know, and getting that question answered on who Jesus really is, that he's not God, that the Trinity doesn't fucking exist, it's not a real thing, you're going to have more questions. You're going to be pissed off probably, because we probably pissed you off at some point tonight. So allow us to explain. Allow us to give you the details, and then you can decide. We don't want you to take our word for it, but let us give you the scriptures that back it up. What we're asking you to do is to stop trusting religion. Stop trusting all of these people that quote the church forefathers, which is the councils that voted on this and what doctrine you are to believe to begin with. That's all we're saying. So if you have questions, please reach out. That's all I have for the night, because we didn't answer much.
Are you trying to end this, or do we want to go on to like why are we still a sinner thing? Because I know we.
Well, we've been in about an hour, and so we'll come back, and
why are we still a sinner? That
why are we
is
still
long
a sinner
subject.
will be the question.
Yeah, that is a
Sure,
long subject.
you're awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. You know where those buttons are. We don't have the button here for you to click, but you can find it. You're smart enough. You've done this enough times. Subscribe and like.
Hey, listen, we love you, even if it doesn't seem like it. So,
Yes, that's great. So
I'm not very sensitive.
have a great night. You're the best.
Love you.
Beware, beware, be skeptical. Let the smiles